Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Carmen. I apologize. I'm at a cafe. I'm still in Juneau, so I might just stay on mute to limit the noise.
No worries. Are you there on purpose or did you get stuck there?
No, I'm here on purpose, but I'm
Okay.
supposed to fly out. I'm supposed to fly out at 2:30, and the 8 a.m. flights haven't left yet, so we'll see.
Right. So still on purpose, maybe later stuck. Okay. We'll hold thumbs that you get out on time. Being stuck places is unfortunately a theme. Um, uh, Folks in. So, as a reminder to some of you, you're all welcome. We did convert today's ECN meeting to an advisory board meeting. So, a few of you, if you're meaning to be here for a normal meeting and you were not on the advisory board, if you'd like to stay and join us, you're welcome to be here. If you'd like an hour and a half of your day back, you're welcome to go forth and do your normal things. You're welcome to stay and plan with us. We're going to be working on the ECN retreat and doing a few other things, but today's meeting was the notices went out a few weeks ago with the retreat logistics that today's meeting, because of the time we're asking people to dedicate to the retreat. Today's meeting is an ECN advisory board meeting. So you're welcome to join us and help with some of the retreat planning, or you can take that hour and a half back into your day. Detroit.
Yeah, thanks. I'll head out.
Good to see you guys. Okay. I'm sorry, the sun just peaked above the mountains right as the meeting was starting, which I'm not going to be sad about, but I'm like dodging it. So I keep like moving farther back from my computer. So sorry about that. Okay, I think this is almost everybody who's joining us. I'm not sure if Emily's planning on popping on or not, so she might join us, but I think everybody else declined for today. Abby and, oh, I was just gonna say Abby said she could make it, and there she is. So what do I know? I did send out a very draft version of a agenda that we just started kind of putting together, mostly to have something to kind of react to. Hi Abby, glad you could join us. No worries about the camera. But it's just meant to be a starting place. So don't take anything on there as something we're definitely doing. We wanted to have something. Sometimes starting from a blank piece of paper can be intimidating and it's hard to get started. So we just wanted to have a few things going, and the Stellar Group is going to be facilitating this year just like they did last year. And we're trying to start with some of the things that they remembered as feedback from last year, and a few things that I had heard leading up to our planning, but want to make sure that we incorporate the things that are most important to you all. So that's what we're going to do today. Did people get the email I sent out with the draft agenda? I can either pull it up on the screen or and then share it, or we can work on it offline. It kind of is just a balance of, do people want to see faces or not? If I pull it up and share it, you have to actually come off mute and use your voice, because I can't see you when you nod like this. That's the agreement we make. If I share the screen, you have to use words like this. I can't see you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right. And I will share my screen. Um, so the first, I know not everybody is going to be able to make the 14th. We're going to do a half day. We set aside a half day, like the afternoon, for time for the advisory board to meet. And I know not everybody can make it, and that is fine, but it was hard to pass up this ability to leave space for that if people were going to be able to make it, because we were all coming together in person. And so don't be stressed if it's not something you can make. I know it's already a lot of time to ask people for, but we'll start. The purpose of the retreat items at the top are kind of mostly the purpose for the whole ECN. So those days on the 15th and 16th, those were the days from last year. But the advisory board time, I thought for those who can make it, the purpose is really under that advisory board time. So those purposes are set out, and there's not really an agenda there yet. But we really had those two items listed. So maybe first we can look at the kind of purposes of the two times we're holding together, the advisory board meeting and the purpose of the retreat, if people thought those felt right, or if they see something either that is missing or isn't what they were expecting.
I have a question, Carmen.
Yes.
So for the ECN retreat, are home visitors coming as well to the ECN retreat, or is there separation now that you guys have the Home Visitor Alliance?
If so, the Home Visitors Alliance is in the process of kind of being launched. It's not all the way up and going. We're sending out the weekly bulletins. We're working on kind of making sure we have an updated, like an accurate distribution list. We're doing what's called like list curation right now. And we're working towards we're trying to figure out what the right time is to kind of launch the monthly calls for the Home Visitors Alliance. And there will be a summit in the spring. So the Home Visitors Alliance will have like the spring summit like they've had, I want to say the last 2 years, but like not 100% how many years the summit has been happening for home visitors. The Home Visitors Summit is virtual. So that's a big difference between the ECN and the Home Visitors Alliance. There actually are a lot of differences between the two groups, but we'll start with that. The summit is really meant to be more didactic in nature. It's really around like a theme, and it's educational. It's meant for them to get some of their didactic training hours. We're in the process of trying to pick what the theme is, and it's going to be in the springtime. I'm trying to narrow it down. I just saw the save the date come out for the what used to be the Infant Mental Health Conference. I think they changed the name this year. And so we're trying to make sure we don't conflict with that. So we were thinking the first week of May, but now it's like, that's the first week of May. So maybe early in April, we're narrowing it down. Spring, which is vague. The intent for the ECN retreat, from my understanding, but I'd love to hear more feedback from this group, is it's for the 2 designated members of the ECN from each of the communities to have time to come together. There may be one of the things that we talked about in this group a couple months ago was having kind of lanes to make sure that the like priority areas and the communities or the positioning of the organizing entity based on where communities were was that there could be topic areas that people wanted to focus on, and it may be that one of those is home visiting, and that can those things can coexist even with the Home Visitors Alliance. So it may be that there's an overlap in focus, just like over the past couple of years, like childcare has had an outsized focus on this because it's such a large issue in the state, and there's other um, groups and efforts around childcare, but it is such a strong, it has such a strong focus and need right now that those things overlap. So the um, um, based on how people are positioned in their community and which hats they wear or what organizations they sit at, somebody may be a representative on the ECN and may also attend Home Visitors Alliance activities. They're not meant to be like mutually exclusive, but they aren't necessarily both and the same. The goals for the Home Visitors Alliance are for it to be more of a professional association. The didactics for that are held outside the Alliance. They are coordinated with the ECHO, which again, obviously there's crossover and there's like promotion of it between the two. But the Alliance meetings are going to be more like doing things to promote the professionalism of the of home visitors themselves. Things like creation of statewide standards of practice, safety guidelines, things that help across the home visiting models, and that are useful for or smaller programs that don't necessarily fit into one of the designated models that don't have like a statewide coordination support or things like that. And then the Alliance will do things that support home visiting in general. So public facing education about what home visiting is, why it's important, advocacy on behalf of, for resources and education to the public to help support recruitment and things like that.
Awesome. Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate that.
So it's like helpful, not helpful, because there's still the concentric circle, or the Venn diagram of like early childhood encompasses all of these things. And so there's going to be the overlap. And so, yes, I anticipate there will be home visitors or people who work in or oversee home visiting programs that are involved in the ECN, and they are absolutely welcome and may be at the retreat.
I don't know if we got information, and I know we had talked about it at a previous advisory board meeting on finding out what different funding sources those participating in the ECN are accessing. Was that on the survey? Did we get that information back? I feel like that could be a really great area for those receiving similar funding to be able to collaborate and work together and see what other programs and communities are doing under those funding restrictions. And I don't know, in my mind, I like envision all of us in the room at ECN and we separate into these little groups with like funding and making that be a little bit of a icebreaker, even though it's more work related than maybe personal and getting to know each other. But that's something that is of interest to me.
Yeah. So funding. I'm going to make notes at the bottom. This is why I shouldn't share my screen. I'm going to make y'all dizzy and decide if it's going to be at the top or the bottom. So would you hope for that to be something that people like shared in their community introductions? Like, so one of the ideas was that everybody or communities, so it wouldn't be like necessarily at the individual person level, but at the community level. So if some people will have one person, some communities will have one representative, and some will have two based on the RSVPs we got. So like each community will start by like introducing yourself feels weird because most of us know each other, but like talking a little bit about like positioning, about where you are as a community, like the program overview is how Iris worded it. So like what your coalition network is like working on, and they were going to give some guiding questions. So would it be helpful to have like funding included in that, or are you looking for it to be like a totally separate topic where you like that's the main thing that's discussed? There's not a right or wrong answer to this. I'm like, this is the whole point is that we structured around what you guys want to get out of it.
I mean, I feel like that question could go under this program overview. I'm just, once you get into a room with a lot of people, you don't always talk about like the funding piece of it. And I really feel like there could be a lot of connections and collaborations made in being able to share some of that information. So I definitely feel like under program overviews, it would fit well.
What other information would you want to see shared in this?
It would be nice to know like what the umbrella organization is. I know that we have some individuals that are infant learning program, maybe some of the medical clinics or hospitals, nonprofit organizations. And I would also like to kind of learn a little bit about the individuals attending the ECN, if they feel like their work is primarily early childhood education focused, or if it's more like early childhood prevention services, and kind of see where that divide might be with those attending. I mean, they go hand in hand anyways,
Yeah.
but there's some specialized focus in both of those areas.
I know last
I'm gonna
year.
come up with.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say I'm gonna come up with a better way to phrase that, but I'm just trying to keep
something
notes.
like that last year, and I think it helped start. I thought it was one of the most helpful moments, at least for me and for the person who came with me from our region, because it helped it gave us so many ideas of things we could do. And it helped us start the conversation with other people at the conference during the breaks or the workshops. So I think that is a very productive way to spend the beginning of the retreat.
Okay. And I think the idea, or if it's not right now, we can make it the idea, would be to have everybody like give these overviews, and then for there to be time for you to kind of mix up and to find people based on what you hear. Is that what it's sounding like? You're like, oh, I just heard this thing and that's really important. I've been trying to stress, I've been hearing you, and I've been trying to, every time we talk about the retreat, I'm like, they need unstructured time to talk to each other. Like we need to build in time for everybody to make connections and talk with one another. So we're going to try to pad like transition times and breaks and things like that for there to just be more natural space. So if you're like taking notes or thinking about things in that opening time, there will also be like longer spaces at lunch or breaks when you can tag people. So there will be like a mix up time then, but also space throughout the retreat when you can grab people and have a conversation as well.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is where we want to insert this. This is more like a housekeeping thing, just feedback from last year, being a super new person to all of it and still really trying to understand the lay of the land and what the ECN even was. but we got in our packet like a list of all of the ECN members and their email and their phone number. And then there was like a round robin overview. And I literally was trying to take notes on that same sheet of paper. So I'm wondering if it would be helpful for people, especially if they're new. For me, I was like trying really hard to be actively listening. Like when Casey was talking about her project and all the things she was doing in Seward, I was like, okay, this is the face of Seward. Like I just met you. Like I was trying to like take it all in. But the spot that I had to organize my thoughts on and provide all the input or information she was giving me or giving the group
It was too small.
was like, so if there could be some sort of a worksheet during the program overview that's like basically a roster, and it could have an email and a phone number associated with it, but because we'll know ahead of time who's coming, right? So we could essentially have like a whole ECN roster, and then like present participants or something like that could be at the top, and then it could have like an open spot to write funding and structure type, you know, that part of the bullet conversation information, and then it could have a spot about the umbrella information, and then it could have a, you know what I mean? Because I feel like that might, and maybe I just need to come more prepared and show up a little more organized, but I'm wondering if how many other new people are going to be there, that might help guide them being able to just, because when I walked away with all of my paperwork and my stuff that I tried to write notes on, it was like I still had so much work to do in like one-on-one check-ins with people to really understand what I just learned about everybody. I don't know if that's helpful.
I love that idea, Tracy. That's an amazing idea. And it's something that you can take back to your office too. And I mean, coming out of something like that, there's so much information and so many connections to be made that you're really not going to make them all. So I love that idea.
Would you want it pre-populated? Like I could see it, if I was going to build it, I would do it like by community, like, I would list it out by community, and I'd say like the people that we're gonna, like the ECN members, their contact information, and their umbrella organization. And I like, so we could pre-populate it like by what's on your ECN MOU. Like so the like that stuff, so you didn't have to write that down, and then just have like a big blank space with notes. And so it'd be like, I'd probably do it in alphabetical order. So it wouldn't be like this, but it'd be like Seward, Central Kenai Peninsula, you know, like, and have those. Do you want it by community or by person? My natural brain organizes it by community, but how would you guys like to see it organized?
Yeah, community.
I mean,
I agree.
I went in as far as in my notes, like I literally had like if they were there or if they weren't there. And then if they were there, I had next to their name, like where they were sitting in the room. So that like when I could, which this is like me just being a super visual person. So yeah, just any way that there could be more of the, like the pre-filled in information that we know. And then space to like write things that's associated with that individual community and the representative that's representing that community, to just keep it all in one spot.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? We're going to go back up to the top, but anything else like in that packet or available to you that would be helpful? We can come, like, this, none of this is your last chance to offer it, but since I'm here. I'm assuming we're going to do name tags again for that same reason of seeing people in person, or maybe you haven't met people yet, or maybe you're newer to the group. So we'll do name tags and all the normal type things. Okay, we're going back up to the top then. Okay. Okay. So you think, but in general, the program, this is a good framing for helping us get grounded in who's in the room, who we might want to connect with, helpful for us to make connections as we're there, as long as we give
Yes.
Tracy, I'm just gonna give Tracy a seating map and she can write her um, her notes there. I love that, the visual. I did the same thing. I'm like, who's sitting at the table? Okay. Some of the things that got pulled out for talking about, as far as like sessions, were family engagement, like how, like different strategies that communities are using around family engagement. And so that got tagged as a topic. Does that feel right to you guys? Is that one of the things? Don't ask me about gallery rock or fishbowl because I can't answer it. I don't know what that means, but that's like the style of activity I think we're going to do to talk about it. But
Can we maybe open that up a little bit from like family engagement? Because not all of us do direct services, but maybe like family and organization engagement, because some of us are trying to partner with other organizations in our community or statewide, and ways that individuals are making those connections could be helpful on top of the family engagement.
To me, is there a space later for partners in each local community? Maybe that would fit better, the organizations. You know, how we're each trying to have our own coalitions in our areas. Should we link this last thing that Casey was talking about with more of our local coalition work?
So the other topics, I'm going to let you see if what you're asking fits in any of the other topics that we're talking about. So the afternoon is, this is kind of, I think the intention of this is to self-select. We talked about having the ability to group by like a focus area or something that was relevant or bubbling up the local area. And so there was going to be like tables, and we could like group ourselves by something that was a current focus or issue locally. And so things that have been that were talked about in December were like the innovation grantees, home visiting. Casey was one of the things, like ECE facilities or ECE in general, the topic areas. So this is kind of a self-selecting into small groups to have conversation about what's going on at different local levels. And then on the second day, talking about community priorities. So how, what's going on in your community, the affect your, like the direction of your coalition. This might be what you were talking about, Eileen.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, we're going to have some visitors from Help Me Grow and have a discussion about connecting to resources. That was a discussion about how to access resources and do connection to resources. And then messaging and advocacy. So how to use some of those discussions about community priorities and to focus them either for messaging within the community or advocacy if that's something you engage in. So that helps see what else was there. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. Casey, where do you think it fits best? I like your idea. I just and that may be very more only for my area. I feel like it is a huge challenge since COVID to just bring people out. I feel like that might benefit of being its own point, but I'm not close to the idea of putting it there because I do think it's also an important point if there's nowhere else where it fits better.
You're talking about bringing in partners in different organizations to meet as part of your ECE coalition.
Yeah, and that would be a different point than trying to bring families out to events and how to like get them to participate and strategies to, we all know food helps, but what else kind of thing. It seems to be a challenge a lot of communities have right now of organizing things and having a very hard time to find ways of getting people out to those events or those tools we want to give them. Versus more of the organizational, how do I become partners with this or this or that?
Yeah, I in this area that's like the gallery walk or the fishbowl with the family engagement, like I wonder if we could just break the room in between those that are doing family engagement and those that are looking for like partner collaboration engagement. And then maybe we could have a leader for each kind of group that's still kind of facilitating or there to help lead the conversation.
That's a great
idea. I
don't
know what
a lot of people have 2 people going anyway. So if we thought that we're interested with both, then one could go in each.
Do you think that would meet meet your need and your collaboration?
I think so. Carmen, what do you think of that and the others?
Oh, I'd like to hear from others if other people, I have thoughts, but I'd like to hear from others before I talk too much.
Hi, Emily.
Hello, sorry I'm late. I am attending a training at the same time as usual, but you have Shannon. So,
okay.
Shannon, I'm assuming you said hello to everyone and
not yet, just
Oh.
we kind of got in and just got moving. So I was letting Carmen do her thing. But I think I've met most everyone through email.
Okay, well, just as a reminder to everyone, Shannon is, for lack of better wording, the new me. I'm still here. I'm still with Carmen and helping, but really excited to bring Shannon on and get her all connected with you and caught up in all things ECN because it's probably the best part of that job. So that's why she's here. Her email, I'll have her put it in the chat. It's just her first and last name at alaska.gov. Feel free to email her just as you would email me when you have questions. But anyway, sorry I'm late. I'm happy to be here. This is looking fantastic. That's all I have.
Thanks, Emily. Sorry you're doing double duty. I know how you feel. Did anybody else have, sorry, Shannon. There was we kind of did the reshuffle at the beginning with folks joining that thought we were having the ECN meeting, and then I forgot to circle back. Do you want to say hi?
No. Yeah, don't worry about it, Carmen. Like I said, I think I met everyone through an email, through follow-up, but I am Shannon Parker, like Emily said, trying to somewhat fill her shoes. I know it'll look a little bit different. I come from a different background, but I came from, 25 plus years in the ILP program. I did do some parents as teachers early on, early Head Start, disability and behavioral health, all in the state of Alaska, all over Alaska. So I've been, I used to travel everywhere, anywhere and everywhere. So being stuck someplace is not new to me. In fact, right now, I don't consider it stuck, but I came over to Michigan for my daughter's baby shower, and I'm stuck because the planes aren't flying. So, so I'm trying to get out tomorrow. So Emily's been kind and letting me work today, and I'll try to get out tomorrow. I look forward to working with everybody and learning. So be patient. I'm learning all these new things. Like I said, I have my hands in a little bit of it, but you guys are the experts, and I'll learn as I go. So thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate it, Carmen.
Yeah.
I will say, I brag about the ECN to Shannon all the time, and I've told her multiple times how the ECN is my favorite. There are lots of favorites of the job, but the ECN is my favorite, and I think that's because we get to work with such cool people like yourselves. So I'm a little reluctant to let it go, which is why I'm slowly doing it.
I wrote a really nice note about what y'all said, and then it went away. I don't know if anybody's been watching me fail over here on the comment situation, but I'm going to rewrite it now. Did anybody else have comments about the idea of splitting it into two groups in this section?
Do we know if the majority of folks that are coming are bringing 2 representatives? Like, is that data we have or not really? I guess that
I
would
can tell you.
is if one
Hold
community
on.
showing up without a second representative, then maybe that forces them to
There-
choose between one or the other.
Yeah, there are some communities that only have one, and there are some that are only one responded. So, Anchorage only is sending one. Central Kenai only has one. Uh, Copper Center is sending 2. Dillingham is sending 2. Homer is sending 1. Kodiak is sending 2. Kotzebue is sending 2. Matsu is sending 2. Nome is sending 2. Seward is sorting itself out. And
I love it. And from that,
that's it.
we have historical data of knowing like what their need would
What's
be.
a-
I don't know. I like the idea of having options. I mean, I'm not, I guess I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here and say like what happens if someone shows up from one community and it's just one person and they want the best of both worlds, right?
So it's Anchorage, Central Kenai, and Homer. I feel really confidently in those 3 people advocating well for themselves and finding the right group. I mean, it's Red, Abby, and Stephanie, and I think they will be able to navigate that situation pretty well. Abby, you're on the phone call. Do you want to advocate for yourself right now? Oh, did she drop off? She might have left.
I think
She was on the phone earlier. She lost her chance. I think I know Abby does both. So knowing what I know about the Abby and Red do both. Stephanie does more of the family engagement. I think that it will be fine. I don't think that we should like limit if organizations could benefit from both those conversations. I think it's okay to have them both, and we can also share what was discussed in them with you know.
that sounds perfect.
So I think it'll be okay. Also, or if we're, especially because it sounds to me like there are some communities that don't do one or the other. And so I don't want to have a whole session on one or the other and then have something that's completely irrelevant for a period of time.
Okay.
So, but again, see, I said I wasn't going to talk, guys. That's my opinion, and that doesn't mean it's right. So I think that um,
I
you know,
think
I'm open to whatever.
I think that both will work. I just wanted to voice the other. So I like keeping it together and having choices. Sorry. I just always have to be the one that says the other thing to make sure we're thinking about it.
That's good, Tracy. That means you're reflecting and trying to think from other people's point of view. So that's good.
Okay. Okay. And if people can keep thinking about that, and if they have more thoughts as we keep moving through, we can come back to them. Do you feel good, especially given that we'll have just come out of in the morning, hearing from everybody and hearing some of those kind of current topics and structural things about each community, about leaving the kind of afternoon breakout, like topic discussion or table discussions, open and letting people self-select into like on the fly or like open table discussions, or do you want to predefine them? I kind of like it being, nope, I'm not gonna say it. What do people want?
I think we should have, a little bit of guidance because I worry about people advocating for themselves or getting themselves engaged and maybe not joining in on the conversation. So for me personally, I'd like to maybe see some proposed table topics. And then if there's something that's not on the list of suggested topics and they wanted to make, a suggestion, that there would be space for that.
And you don't mean assigning people to the tables, you just mean having the topics available for people to choose from and they still self-select into whatever they are. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. And then we briefly ran through this, and then that's it for day one. We ran through what the agenda is for day two. But I want to go through it quickly, or not quickly. I want to step through it the same way we did. But I want to make sure we leave time because I want to circle back at the end before we're done to make sure we go through the advisory board agenda. And I want to highlight something on day one that we kind of glossed over that might be important to you all because it involves you. So let's go through this and then we're going to circle back to the top. We have icebreakers on both days, which is fine. They have icebreakers they're going to come up with, but if there's anything that people feel really strongly about that they either want or don't want, please let me know. We don't have to like dwell on that, but I know icebreakers at retreats, I have learned over the years, some people have very strong feelings about. So if you have those, let me know. So we're back to the community priorities. Eileen, I wanted to get back to what you were saying earlier. Is this leave space for anything that might have been missed when you were talking before about, do you feel like we covered what you wanted to see around family engagement up above, or is there still stuff that might fit here that we maybe got rearranged? You're on mute.
Sorry, I think it should cover it.
Okay, just wanted to check.
Yeah, thank you.
Is this work for a agenda topic? Are people feeling okay about this? They want to see something else?
Looks good to me.
Okay. We listed, I think I said this when we were into the agenda before, but we're going to have the entire Help Me Grow Alaska team come in person, so that folks have the chance to meet all of the family support specialists, which would be anybody who somebody talked to on the phone. If a referral was made to Help Me Grow, or if somebody needed help with resources. One of the things that's come up on a few calls is accessing resources or finding support for different things. And so one of the things we're going to talk about is the resource database and how to better utilize, or how to better utilize that in your community, or if you need help or support finding things that way. And so we're going to have that team come over and have both just some information sharing, but also time for discussion about how this can be a resource for communities. And then the team will stay for lunch. So the lunch will be both continued time for networking amongst the ECN, but also some time to kind of build some relationships with the Help Me Grow staff, and getting to know them a little bit better to help with understanding how they can be a resource for you, and that you can get to know them so that they can be a better resource for your communities as well. If there are specific things that there's specific questions or things that you'd like them to bring or have ready, let me know, and I'm happy to have them work on that or prepare that, and we can make sure that that's done. If there's any resources you want, some people have been ordering like books or outreach materials, things like that. We can also have those ready if you want to have those, and we can bring them to you. And then messaging and advocacy in the afternoon. And so this is kind of will feed off of this morning conversation around how your coalition is responsive to what your community priorities are and what that looks like. Just around, it kind of builds on starting with that engagement, right? And advocacy it can look like Casey's and Juneau, right? It can look like a very specific way, but that doesn't have to be what it is. And so I don't want people to think like, oh, I don't do advocacy. That's not relevant to me. This can just look like, making sure your organization is getting the resources it needs. It feeds in a lot of different ways. And so the idea is making sure your coalition can talk about itself and advocate for itself at whatever level it is relevant for it at the time and is ready for that.
Hey, I have some thoughts on this piece. I don't know, I haven't really fully formalized it yet. But I'm wondering if there's anybody in the room that have specific bills that they're following, and if anybody wanted to speak to it and see if there was any support or collaboration. I would also maybe like to see this area. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. My food got delivered. Give me just a moment. But if any bills that anybody's following, I would like to learn more about that. Oh, my other thought was that I met with Senator Tobin today, and they're getting ready to launch their children's caucus. So any information around that, if people aren't familiar with it, or ways that we can continue to support those efforts at a statewide level. And then another thing actually too that I was thinking about is coming into the early childhood field. There's so many different areas of it: home visiting, early education, preschool, OCS, prevention services. Understanding where your efforts and your organization land at the state level, because some of that is separated between family and social services and the Department of Health. So really knowing which commissioner you're going to want to be speaking to for your specific effort, or the chain of command to doing some of that advocacy.
I would suggest on that one too, anytime you have questions like that, you can always email me and I can point you in the right direction, because sometimes, even though we're separate departments now, we're still working together. For example, for parents as teachers, half of our funding comes from OCS to the Department of Health. And so although we're separate, we're still very much together still in some ways through different interagency agreements. So anytime you have questions like that, feel free to reach out to Shannon or I, and we'll definitely point you to the right person.
Something
and
that's
that's
kind of, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that's a big part of why we have the co-facilitation model, is to help get the structural supports to the communities that you need or that are appropriate for different situations. And that's part of the state's structural support that Women's Children's Family Health provides.
We can also help guide you to avoid, maybe some pitfalls, or, or if we know that there's a certain topic that may shut down leadership, that there's something they don't want to talk about, and they will either ignore your email, or for whatever reason, there's political stuff behind a lot of this. I can help guide you around some of that so you don't get yourself in that situation and you have healthy, positive conversations that are fruitful. So yeah, that would be my suggestion, is, use Shannon and I as your guide to those conversations. That's what we're here for.
Something that's come to mind, which this might be just a tad bit off topic from what we're discussing, but the licensing to be a foster parent and the licensing to be a child care provider are so incredibly similar, but yet I almost feel like those resources that are going into both of those licensing departments could maybe be better collaborating. And in some ways, safe space. Some ways I feel like one licensing procedure is more restrictive than the other, when they're really just doing the same thing of keeping children safe in those homes. So
I think
I don't know where
Tracy Schaefer and Kotzebue would definitely agree with you on that. We were just having some email conversations similar to that. And one thing, so I had reached out to an OCS contact, and one thing I think there's some education to the public that needs to happen on both the Department of Health and the Department of Family and Community Services end. Is most of our licensing regulations come from federal requirements, which are two separate entities, one for the child care part and one for foster care. And so that's why, but that doesn't mean there aren't ways that we could, streamline some of those. It's a lot of paperwork, right? And administrative. We should still have conversations about how to streamline some processes to take the burden from providers, either foster families, childcare providers, whatever. Like, there's a lot of overlap. I agree with you, but the reason they're separate now is because they're separate federal regulations from two different federal entities that oversee those things. Is the short of it. Not that I don't agree with you, because I do.
Thank you, Emily. I appreciate that.
Okay. Those are really good points and questions, Casey. I really appreciate it.
That also makes me think, Carmen, you know, I wasn't able to pin down Commissioner Hedberg, but I wonder if we could still kind of pursue that and maybe even have commissioners from both ends do a Q&A and just facilitate a positive community connection conversation. And Shannon, that's something you and I can talk about. And I've mentioned it to our supervisors, Becky. I've mentioned it to Becky before, and she was supportive too. So that is something we could try to pin them to. It's just so hard, especially during session. They're basically on call, but it's not off the table. And I think it would be very valuable.
Yeah. Okay. From the ECN piece, not the pre-meeting of the advisory board, but the ECN piece, is there something we feel is missing, or that you don't see between the 2 days, or that you didn't hear? Let's talk about.
Carmen, how involved is the Stellar Group going to be this year? Are they going to be there, or?
I didn't hear the who?
The Stellar Group?
Stellar Group, sorry. Yes, they are going to be facilitating again. And so they're who helps with the draft agenda. Thank you. The idea behind that is that then, like, Emily and Shannon and I can participate, and we will help with the conversations, but not, if we're not leading it, then we can be more involved in the conversations. So they will be there facilitating again. What we've heard from you guys is that we want to have like productive conversation, but there to be kind of somewhat less kind of intense of the work we need to accomplish. So getting good work and connection done, but more of a focus on relationship building, time together, networking, and less like product outcome driven from last year. So they'll be there, they'll be helping to kind of facilitate. My hope is that will result in us, there'll be some, like, you know, they'll be there to keep us focused on the agenda, facilitate the conversations. I don't know if there's one or two of them or more of them that will physically be in the room. Hopefully that means like things like notes, like we were talking about in those introductions, like all of that information, somebody will be available to like note take and have stuff like that. I will find out about that piece. So as far as how involved they will be the ones facilitating, so that we all are able to participate.
Got it. Thanks.
I'm wondering if it would, I don't know if it'd be helpful for the ECN or if there would be a way to bring it in, but there's quite a bit of time kind of chunked out for this messaging and advocacy workshop. Is there anybody that can be brought in that can just do like maybe a quick 30-minute informational education piece on like how to find bills that might interest your organization, or ways to find out who your representatives are, like just those kind of simple, you know, the starter points to get more involved with advocacy?
Yeah, we can likely do a we can look into some like primer information for what would be useful, like And we can certainly make sure that people know about like what resources are available, like who's already like putting out information about bills that are being tracked, and stuff like that. And so there's a number of resources that are already available, and so getting connected to those things that already exist so people aren't trying to recreate the things that people can already connect to without having to reinvent that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's great, Carmen. Something that just recently came across to me was like my local LOI office. I just kind of messaged and reached out and was like, hey, I'm interested in these various topics. And I don't know if all of them do this, but she like pulled together a whole spreadsheet of just the bills that would be of interest to the topics that I work on. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool. Yeah. There's also like the tracking, like the Mental Health Trust does. There's a number of resources that people can plug into, but you have to know that they're there. Yeah. Yeah, LOIs can be a really good resource. It's a great reminder. Okay, great. So I want to circle back to the top to flesh out this, the advisory board meeting a little bit more, and highlight that one of the things we didn't touch on at the beginning of the day one is that as one of the goals, I guess, for going through the advisory board meeting, and it doesn't have to be somebody who's able to make it on the first day, it can be anybody, but we were, as we were thinking about what would be nice is, last year I heard, I was not there last year, you probably all know that because I think most of you were there last year, that we started with like a what, you know, the structure of the ECN and where we are. So we thought, we can shorten it this year because we have the charter. There's a number of things. The work we are doing this year is very different, but still it would be helpful to talk about, like maybe do like a short reflections on the past year, as some, you know, setting the stage for the retreat, and doing an advisory board overview. And we thought it would be nice if it came from an advisory board member, because we have an advisory board and the goal is that it's led by members, and we're trying to, that's one of the things we're trying to work towards. And so nobody has to do anything right now. I'm not asking for anybody to volunteer unless you would like to right now, but just to think about the fact that we would like to start it with something that is led by one or more of the members. It doesn't have to be just one person, but kind of setting the stage that we are trying to help, you know, help it be, you know, the tone and the agenda, and this should be set by you guys, and that's part of the goal of the advisory board. And so hoping that one or some of you guys can help us with that, and that can be something we craft on that first day. Or if you're not able to make it, you're interested in doing that, we can do it beforehand too. So I wanted to highlight that as well.
Yeah, and yeah, I think, you know, giving them the feeling that we're there just to represent what they want, you know, what the whole group wants, so that they really feel that. And then also, I thought it would help to, and maybe that you already thought about the kind of the overview of how many of us are there, how many communities are represented, maybe just having like a visual map of Alaska with, you know, a little where we have representation and where we don't yet, and maybe some of us know people in other communities that are not represented yet that we could invite, and giving a few numbers of how many we are, or I don't know if it would even be possible to ask communities before to maybe give us in numbers, I don't know, how many home visitors are represented. I don't know what the ECN represents, programs, not only locations, but people touched, people who have their lives changed with what we're trying to do. Something motivating.
Like that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I think that's important for the group in general for what we're doing. And I think it'll be really grounding for us to start with something like that.
I think it's a way to tell the ECN story as it is now. It's changed since we started, and we did used to have a map, but there weren't any data points connected to it, and it didn't tell the story like I think it could. I agree that we could definitely build on this, and it would be grounding.
Yeah.
Sorry, another thought, having also where there's already regional coalitions, because I think those of us who are trying to build our own, we would love to talk to those who already have one running to get some ideas and input. And it would be really motivating to me to see, who has been able to build a regional coalition.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. For the advisory board meeting on the 14th, the two like kind of the purpose or the goals was to look at the role of the advisory board in general and the members, and how and to do some planning for the year ahead of what the advisory board is doing and plan out what how the board functions and what we're doing and how the board supports the broader ECN, to plan out some of what's going to happen next how next 2 days, and how the board will function over the coming year. Have some time together, just as in the same way that the ECN retreat will be, the role of the affiliate members of the ECN, and then to start and to do some planning around the ECN evaluation. One of the things we're going to be doing is doing formal evaluation planning, in the same way we evaluate a lot of other programs, and working on figuring out what metrics are important, how we're going to do it over time, and what that looks like for kind of a network or group like this. And so does anybody else have things that they feel like would be important for when the advisory board meets before the retreat?
We're going to be doing some evaluation planning. I just want to make sure that we include in that a way that we're reporting the information and the data. Like, will we have a platform that's going to be shared across all the ECN members to be able to input the work that they're doing? Or maybe correct me if I'm not understanding that correctly.
When we get to doing the evaluating, yes. Right now we're just looking at, there's different methods for doing network evaluations. And so right now we're doing the planning, choosing the like methods and metrics, what we are hoping to focus on. I'm looking at the a kind of multi-year evaluation cycle. And there's like, oh, I don't have my notes in front of me. There's like 3 pillars of network evaluation. And if we want to do like a multi-year cycle where we do focus on different pillars, whether we want to look at them all at the same time and do like a benchmarking year and do but kind of like have like look at how we want to think about the ideal outcomes for what the ECN is, and how it will be evaluated over time. So when we get to doing the evaluation, the full ECN will be involved. We'll be getting information and data from the whole group, but the advisory board will be utilized in forming the evaluation questions and how it is designed. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
And this might just be my curiosity or lack of listening when it was already said in the past, but could we get a tiny debrief from you or Shannon on the 14th about how the ECN is funded and who's reporting on it, that sort of thing?
Yeah, the short answer right now is at this moment, it's supported by PDG funding, and will be for the next 2 years.
It's still written in our original. It's still written in our original contract though, so technically, it's also funded by OCS, an agreement with OCS. Right. That's how it started. Is we have an agreement with the Office of Children's Services, have had for a long, long time to do the early childhood comprehensive systems work for them, because that work started in OCS and then moved to the Division of Public Health. And so when we started the ECN, I wrote that in as part of that agreement. But then PDG is, because we have PDG right now, that's really where the bulk is focusing. Like all this retreat is coming from preschool development grant.
Yeah. So like last year we wrote 2 different grants to find money to like support the retreat, because there wasn't like just a ready pot of money for it. This year we already had the money for it. It was from this, I don't want to say pre-existing funding source, but like we knew it was going to be there. We didn't have to write separate grants to support the retreat. And so the part of the work over the time that we have the PDG will be additional sustainability planning for more, more long-term funding in addition to that ECN, ECN, God, ECCS. That will say, see, I was gonna give the short answer and that's a trap I should not fall into. We can talk about it more later. But yes, that could be a topic we talk about. Funding. I'll put it on the agenda. Look at me. Okay. How are we feeling?
Good. Thanks for all the pre-work.
Yeah, I will save this. I'm going to clean up my notes a little bit and I'll save it and then send it back out. So if people have more thoughts or questions, please do them in track changes for my sanity, or add comments, like do the add a comment thing if you're better at it than me. And then if you can get me any comments by Friday, that would be great, because we're going to keep trying to nail things down in case there's other things we need. If you have thoughts or comments after Friday, also totally fine. But if you have them by Friday, A, it'll be fresh in your mind, and B, that'll help us as we have our next planning meeting with Stellar, so they know how to plan appropriately for what we're asking of them. Other than that, I sent a bunch of emails out. We closed the logistics survey on Friday. I sent all the clarifying emails out to people who had either questions or maybes or things yesterday. And everybody who is booking travel or seeking reimbursement or things like that will be getting emails in the next few days from somebody on the HPP2 team about logistics planning for booking. We're booking the hotel block probably today, either today or tomorrow. And we already have the rooms booked. So hopefully all of that side is taken care of. Did anybody have any questions? We way too fast went over who had RSVP just in response to that other question, but
You probably need to know who of us are thinking of being the other 14th in the afternoon too.
there was a question on the survey, so I have the people who answered that. If you've changed your mind, it's helpful, but not like, unless it changes logistics, as far as like if you said you didn't want a hotel room that night, we do need to know that quite soon, because we're booking the tickets. If you are able to make it and you said you weren't, it would be great to know, just so we know. But
I missed the initial question. What was the question that you just
she asked
asked?
if I needed to know who was coming on Wednesday.
Okay. Okay.
So yes, I would like to know. I think I know most. I think I know most of that. But if you change your mind, let me know that too. Any other things people want to know about planning?
Carmen, I was just wondering after the group separates, if you and I could stay on for a minute and just talk about the Seward attendees to the ECN.
Yeah, I have a meeting at noon, but I think we're about done. So if people have anything else, happy to chat about it. If not, I think that's everything I had, unless there's more stuff people have questions about or any information I can provide.
I just had a quick question regarding the MOU that you sent and filling it out as an affiliate member. Does that need to be like directly reflecting me, Tracy, as the affiliate member, or am I having Thread fill that out?
I think that is you as the affiliate member. I think you are the affiliate member, and then your the agency is Thread.
Backbone agency.
That's not the word we use though. Fiscal agent is Thread. I get the affiliate member, but there's one, and it's the second option under affiliate membership. It's like you're representing a statewide agency, and so the statewide agency would be Thread, which would be the fiscal agent. The wording could be better. We may choose to revisit that.
Okay, I'll read through it again and see if I can make that make sense in my head then.
Okay, if not, call me at a time that's not right now.
What's that?
I said, if not, you can call me.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you guys. We really appreciate all your time and support.
Thanks for
today.
everything.
See ya. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Carmen, for willing to stay on with me for another minute.
Yeah.
So I spoke with Melanie and Rosie, and as a team, we kind of decided that it would be beneficial for all three of us to come at this point in time, because a lot of us we're just working on such different things. But with that being said, if it's a funding situation, Steward Prevention Coalition can provide the funding that we need to attend, if that works for A2P2, or what is what's your feedback on that?
Where I'm coming from is no one else has 3 people coming. Everybody else has the 2 representatives that are signed on their MOU. So like the 2 official ECN members. And I'm just trying to be mindful of over representation.
Okay.
And the communities that, and just kind of like, because we have a really varied group of community type and level of development, and where they're literally where they're coming from, the geography of where they're coming from and things like that. And so my kind of understanding of what it is it's for the like ECN members, which would be the 2 representatives from the community. And I just kind of need to be a little mindful of precedent setting. Because if 3 people come from Seward this year, but next year 4 people want to come from the Matsu, like how we define those parameters. And so if it's the 2 ECN members, that's a pretty clear thing that's easy to define. If it gets beyond that, then how do we draw the line, and who are we making exceptions for, and why? It also favors the communities on the road system that can easily subsidize their own transportation.
Yeah. I hear you. So I think what I'm hearing here, because we have Melanie who's doing direct family services, and she's working doing the home visiting model and other community-based family resource events. And then we have Rosie who's working on the program implementation to increase licensed childcare and working directly with our licensed providers and directly with our families accessing licensed childcare. And then there's me, which I'm a little bit more of like the overarching individual for the programs. And I'm working on more like organizational collaboration, advocacy, funding, structural pieces of what Hyper is and what the early childhood piece of the Steward Prevention Coalition is. So I almost feel like it would be more beneficial for Rosie and Melanie to attend, but then at the same time, it's like I just don't know which one would be the least likely to get good information and connections out of the ECN retreat. And if we had to narrow it down to 2, I need to make that decision on what the ECN retreat is really going to provide. And is that going to provide a lot of stuff for our home visitor, or is it going to be more on the licensed childcare piece and the stuff that Rosie's been working on, or is it going to be more about organizational, like time to collaborate and network?
Yeah. We can, let me check one more time with, I've talked internally with folks. Let me talk with Emily and Shannon and get their feedback. I think it's something, we can talk about with, the advisory board and things. But let me check with Emily and Shannon at this point. And as we refine the agenda too, on Friday, I'm hoping to send the notes out I did today, and then I'll get notes back in on Friday to see if anybody has any comments by Friday, and then we can see if the updated agenda gives you any clarity about who might be the most useful. And I'll see if there's thoughts by anybody else that I check in with about attendance.
Because if we need to
and
narrow it
maybe we
down to
can
two,
test it.
if we need to narrow it down to two, then that's just what we need to do. But I want to make sure that we're sending the right two people to the retreat.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I would like, I mean, it's totally obviously your decision. I would go with like the two that are kind of positioned the most differently. I hear you that it's like more like a triangle, and it's like it isn't necessarily like two on either side. And maybe I don't know, maybe let's get the agenda a little further along and you and I can talk again.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's great. And I think that would be something that would be nice to know just as a group. Because early childhood network, there's so many things that fall under that category. And if you're in communities where there's multiple programs doing very different kind of programming in the early childhood field, which in Seward, we don't have so much of the problem, but maybe in other communities where they're living underneath different organizations and wanting to ensure that all of their voices are at the table. I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking.
Which is part of why it isn't meant to be. There is a backbone organization, and the reason we did that was so that so that when we have like funding opportunities, there's a mechanism to get the money there. But you're not representing an organization; you're representing a community. And so there's originally like it went through a lot of iterations to get where it is. Because originally there was one, and then we were like, no, it needs to be two because they could be positioned really differently in the community, and that was exactly why. And so, there are places where they may not be from the same organization for that exact reason, because the idea is that you are community representatives, not agency representatives.
Okay. I think that sounds great. And if you guys on your end need more information on like what our specific roles are in the community to help make the decision on which two are going to be the most beneficial, just shoot me an email and I can get you some job description and activities and duties that we're each doing. It's
not going to be up to us. Like it should be a community. It's your community. You guys should decide that. So I don't need to choose. You guys can choose that. I went to you because you're the signed representative, right?
I think it's difficult to make that decision, I feel, because there is, this is like you were saying with the Home Visiting Alliance, there is that piece, but the ECN is meant to also encompass the home visitors. And then so there's direct family services, but then there's also like the organizational, the individuals that are working with different organizational collaborations and networking and partnerships.
Right. And I think that's more the intention of this. This is the original start of it was people who are leading early childhood coalitions or like structured entities. And so it is kind of that coalition building idea. Not everybody's there, but like Eileen said on the call, that there's some communities who have these amazing long-standing coalitions, and there's some that are just trying to scrap it together. And so there's a wide variety of where people are in that journey. But that's part of the point of the ECN. And so the ECN is more of that early childhood systems work, the coalition building, the community efforts, as opposed to like the Home Visitors Alliance is just one example of it, but that's a professional organization. That's the home visitor is an individual person.
Okay. I know you said you had a meeting at noon, so I really don't want to keep you too long. But why don't you go ahead and talk on your side, and then shoot me an email, and I'll work with within my community and my organization and try to see what we can figure out.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds
All right.
good.
Okay.
And sorry, I just realized I was still sharing. I'm sorry. I could have stopped
Oh, that's
that.
okay. Okay.
Okay. I hope you get home.
Yeah, thank you. I hope so. There's planes flying, so I feel like we're gonna make it. Yeah.
All right. I'll be there next
All right.
week. So
All right. Bye, Carmen.
bye.